Welcome back to another SuperCoach video with me, JD. You are joining me for the round 19 review, where we scored a 24.69, moving us up about 400 spots, sitting 1,200 overall now. So not too far outside the top 1K, which actually might be achievable. Pretty amazing, because I think it was 3 weeks ago I was sitting outside the 3K. So we've come in pretty strong, that's for sure. And like honestly, could have been some more room for improvement this week, but yeah, it is what it is. We had the captain on. I've hit optimize, haven't I? Yeah. I had the captaincy on Butters, which is pretty frustrating because we had it on Caldwell, which is the right call on Friday night, and he was sitting at I think about 112 or something when he got injured. Looked like honestly he was on track for 130, 140 in that last quarter, but yeah, got taken out, subbed out, and injured. Which meant that I rode with Butters, and that did not pan out well at all. I like low time on ground. Port started him on the bench both start of the game and at half time. Like, yeah, just really weird. There's actually a lot of players that either got injured or had low time on ground this week. Like Jackson got held out towards the end. That could have been a bigger score. Caldwell, Dawson subbed out and concussed. He'll miss this week. Rosie had sat out at the end of that game. Butters had low time on ground. I'd need to check McKirch as well. He ended up with an all right score. So, yeah, just quite disappointing from that perspective. And then obviously Fisher, who I benched. I'd set up some pretty exotic looping, which I guess I dodged all the bad scores in Fisher. And really the only optimization here was fielding Dowling over Dawson or Heaney, which was never going to happen. So, yeah, that'll worked out well. But yeah, just frustrating with the amount of like lost points from some of those people. And then obviously the captaincy was a pretty bad one this week. I was asking Discord whether I should move to Bont once the news that Atkins was out, and I didn't do it. And obviously that was the right call as well. It was another 33 points. So like that could have been 2,500 and a really big week. But obviously we'll take that kind of move up in the ranks this week. And it'll be quite interesting to see how people navigate the carnage, because I'm sure some will have bought in Nankervis. Yeah, many will be in the Dawson camp with me as well. But I think pleasingly, like Jackson, I don't believe is on Freo's injury report. Like he had ice on the back of his knee, calf region at the end of that game, but apparently it was just precautionary. Caldwell, while he was subbed out, it was just because the HIA was going to take 20 minutes. He actually passed it, but it was going to take so long that they subbed him out because he wouldn't have got back on anyway. And then Rosie and Butters are fine as far as what I know. And then Dawson's going to miss, I think, 1 to 2 with a concussion, is what is listed as the injury report at the moment. So yeah, that's kind of the very quick recap. Like just going through defense, I think like the other big thing that hurt me this week is none of the players that had those really big scores were in defense. So Whitfield, I think, had another good one. And honestly, he's been amazing post-buy. It was one that I kind of spruiked. I didn't get on because it didn't fit my team structure at the time. But post-buy, he's been, 105 plus in every game. So he'd probably be the best defender post-buy, I'm guessing, apart from maybe Sheasel, who's obviously been amazing. But yeah, 137 just gone, which was huge. I think Sinclair had another big week, I want to say. So yeah, what was he? A 140. So 137, 140 out of those two over some of these 90, 94 scores. It's obviously pretty big at 70 points there. And then I think Stewart, I know there's a fair few Stewart holders, had another good one as well, a 121. So yeah, when you're getting the 96, 90, 99, 94 rather than 120s, 140s, that obviously hurts. But I must say the midfield held up really well, and I dodged like Dunkley, Neil, who were probably the big letdowns this week. I'm sure there are others, but yeah, for having the captain on my worst scoring midfielder was pretty painful. But yeah, like I think everyone else here was like good. There's not really too much to talk about. It's nice that like Green and Sarong are putting out good scores. Like Green didn't have a clanger for the first half, I want to say, or was only towards the end of that first half he got a clanger, which is first time in a while. And Sarong, who's been dead set awful since the bye, has posted his first good score since playing Gold Coast in round 15. So a 140 on the banged up D's midfield. Got West Coast this week, which you'd expect he could score well against, but they've tagged him historically and put attention into him. I know Ginby's not the best tagger, but I guess something to consider there. Yeah, Dawson will have to bench, so see if I actually get a loophole. All right, I'm going to have to undo this team optimization because it's not optimized very well at all. Yeah, so let's see if I can get some loopholes. Otherwise, it'll be like putting Dowling on the field this week. Um, and the forwards, I mean, really only Heaney was a letdown. I think everyone else was good. Obviously, Shrek back this week, back last week, but revenge matchup and having Petty as your number one ruck meant Jackson could still score pretty well. And Kerno had a good game in front of the goals, which was nice. Be interesting to see how they go now with just Pito playing no Tom De Koning. Yeah, so thankfully some of this dream run that we picked up Kerno for starting to come through. Like, had 10 shots at goal the week before and then a 106 this week. So against Port, like, I mean, I feel like whoever he gets out of Zerk Thatcher, Radaglia, or whatever, he should do well against still. And Port haven't been in great form, but Carlton are pretty banged up now, so it should be a close game. We'll see. We'll see what happens. Oh, Brown should be back right from the twos. Didn't he have like 20 something tackles? That was the one I think. So maybe we get him back, which would be nice. Fisher, I'm pretty worried about not playing this week, to be honest. Getting subbed out 3/4 time. Obviously, like McCurch has gone past him and taken it, but like I was still hoping to get 80s, and that is obviously not a very good start. So we'll see what happens. Got the matchup against the Cats this week, down in Tassie, I think. Okay, so Dawson's not playing. There is no cover in that midfield. There's no cover in my defense. I don't think Dawson is playing. I don't think McAuliffe's back. Did Tigers take more injuries? I don't think they took more injuries this week, so I think he's unlikely to play. And they got Taranto returning right from injury, so definitely unlikely. And that leaves Brown and potentially Fisher playing. Not loving that for me. Um, and we're probably not straight fielding Dowling, so we're probably setting up like a Fisher E. He plays pretty early, so we'll see if he actually gets a decent score. It'll lock out some loopholes, but it shouldn't matter. Okay. And then, yeah, so I think the big question for this week is if you still got trades and you've got some of these players, like what do you do? They got injured. So as long as you've got cover for a Nankervis, which is why I brought in Jackson over more, so I would have cover just in case the ruck went down. So if you've got like any of these one weekers, Dawson, Nankervis, whatever, you just hold, you cover with your 23rd Primo, which I mean, Zach Fisher isn't very exciting this week. Or hopefully you've got a couple of these good rookies that you could use. So Evans, Humphreys, Manor, any of those, like and Dowling. So I think you'd be looking to loop those, especially with a Dawson type who doesn't play until the last game. So you've got a fair bit to loophole with. And even Nank plays late. So yeah, hopefully you've got the Jackson cover and you can loophole these rookies. If you've got, say, Tom De Koning, then obviously you just have to trade. He's not coming back until the end of the year. And I think that's really it. Like anything 1 or 2 weeks, you should be trying to, unless you've got like 3 or 4 trades, in which case I think you could sideways out of them, especially for those that haven't been performing particularly well. Or like Dawson, what are you going to upgrade to? Maybe the other question is for those that have like Fisher as a 23rd, like I do, what do you do? Like, do you trade him out now? Or do you hold on to him? I've got 100K in the bank, so there's a fair bit I can trade to him. The thing I want to know is like whether or not I could trade him to Rankin if Rankin comes back. Yeah, I could. That's pretty nice. So if he gets dropped, yeah, the question is, what do I do? Because um, he would cover Dawson this week, which would be like obviously like ideal and handy for him to be able to do that. Uh, but like Dowling with no Rankin, no Dawson. I think Crouch is coming back this week, but he should get I think more time around the ball and like should be able to score okay. Hawks is like yeah, but it's at home. Um, yeah. So like yeah, what do I do? Do I trade Fish this week or do I hold? And I think the problem is if I say Rankin was back this week and I traded him to Rankin, I have great cover in these 3 lines here mid ruck forward, but then I lose out on all defense cover. Yeah, Reed's not coming back this year. Sard is I still think 3 games away, and then Dawson hasn't been getting games, so like all of my rookie covers shot, and I'd have no premium cover. So if I get any injury here for the rest of the year, I'm donezo and we've still got 5 weeks of games to play. That's too long, I think. So just speaking and talking out loud, talking through this issue, I think like even though I could trade Fisher to um like a different premium and play him this week for Dawson. I think being able to field Dowling and potentially loophole him with like a Brown or something like that is sufficient that I don't want to use this trade, because if anyone in defense, if I use this trade and anyone in defense goes down, I'm going to lose like potentially 300-400 points over the next 5 weeks, like pretty easily, depending on when the injury happens. So I think expected value here is to hold the trade and either hope Fisher plays or comes back in the next week. I guess the other thing is like McKerch is probably the riskiest thing in my defense at the moment, in the sense that if like he was sore this week, there was talk that he might not get up. Obviously he's missed a fair bit already, and if he goes down, then Fisher comes back. So not only does trading Fisher out lose my cover for someone that has shown to be, I guess, like susceptible to missing a week here and there, but his replacement is Fisher. So I feel like even if Fisher gets dropped, it makes sense to hold. Sorry, yeah, it makes sense to hold him as cover for McKercher, and just in case McKercher gets rested again or has a setback, then Fisher will come back in and continue scoring all right, I reckon. So, yeah, we'll see what happens, but hopefully he plays this week, because then I can loop maybe Fisher with Dowling, and that would be ideal. Otherwise, I'd be looping like Brown, Dowling, benching Dawson. So yeah, if you've got Fisher, I think hold unless you've got multiple trades. If you've got one like me, then I think just hold on to him. You got Tom de Koning, trade him even if you've got only one left, no matter what. And then I think for Nank and Dawson with the concussion issues, like you just use your cover for that. If you have no cover for Nank and you've only got one trade left, I guess that's the tricky part. Like, what do you do there? It's a solid 100 points this week. No, I think you probably just hold. There's a good chance we get a season ender in the next 2 or 3 weeks, and that could be then 200-300 points. So yeah, I think you just cop the donut if you have like Nank and no cover. Really, I think that's mostly it. There's not a ton to cover this week. Plus, we're later in the week anyway. The only other thing to maybe talk about is captain, vice captain this week, which I haven't paid attention to too much yet. But we can have a quick look at that. So this Port Carlton game, I wouldn't be touching anyone in that straight up. Next we've got North Cats. I guess like Cherry is like the really obvious VC here. So Sam de Koning's been pretty easy to put up points on. Cherry's been in good form. So I like this as a vice captain matchup. It feels like it's got a high ceiling potential here. North have obviously been in pretty good form as well. If you didn't have Cherry, I guess you could consider someone like LDU or even Sheasel, but Cats have been in better form, and I feel like they're not as giving up as bigger scores to midfielders anymore. I do think if Atkins comes back this week, which would be realistic, then he could go to one of them as well. Although I feel like most captain options are going to say the same thing, like someone could go to them. Next up, Gold Coast against the Lions. So this is up at home. So this is when we get the good Gold Coast, but I still think you could consider the Lions mids here. They haven't been tagging, so like Neil, I think you could consider. Dunkley, I think you consider, especially if you don't have Cherry as vice captain options. I'm not as solid on captaincy, but I think that makes sense to have a look there. Saints against Essendon. Can I keep going back to the merit? Well, it would have been nice this week over Butters, but I think this is one probably have to consider as well, because Saints tagger in Windy is out. I don't think they've got a replacement in there to tag. He went 131 on them last time, so I think could consider merit here. Hopefully my very sad side actually respond at some point. I mean, if we lose this, we're absolutely done for finals chances. So it feels pretty must win. You'd hope he responds. D's GWS. I mean, D's midfield's been shocking. So like, could you consider like Green here? I think it's potential. Like he just stands next to Oliver and gives him a bath. I think it's like pretty realistic. It feels like reasonably safe for a 120, although his efficiency's been pretty poor. Gorn coming back this week after 2 weeks off, I think you could look at as well for anyone that kept him as a pot option against Briggs, who has been all right to score on. So I think you could look there. Freo West Coast on Saturday. I've got no faith in Sarong despite this 140, so won't be looking there. I think Jackson should have another good game, but we'll see. I wouldn't be touching that though. Collingwood Tigers, no one in there that comes to mind. Yeah, Nank would have unfortunately been a good captaincy option if he wasn't out this week. Swans, Dogs, I wouldn't touch there. Although, like, I mean, Bont could cop attention. Sydney's harder side to score on. Like, just realistically, I wouldn't go there despite Bont being Bont. Like he should have a safe floor. Oh, Collingwood, Richmond, Dacos. So if he doesn't get taken, if there's no Graham this week, I think you can consider him. But they could do like send Baker to, play defensive on him at times. I wouldn't be too worried about it, but like, yeah, I mean, maybe you could consider like Dacos captaincy. He just hasn't been in the best form lately, and with Pies falling off a cliff, I think he needs him to be up and about to score well. I mean, you would expect against Tigers for them to win, but honestly, it wouldn't be a shock if Tigers got the W here with how poor the Pies have been. Like, yeah, Tigers have looked okay; they've been competitive. Yeah, and then Adelaide against Hawks and last. I don't think there's anyone there I'd look for captaincy or vice captaincy. So yeah, so really, I'm thinking something like Cherry into Merritt, Cherry into Bont, Cherry into Dacos, something like that. Um, yeah, yep, and that'll be pretty much me done for the week. Yeah, cool. So I mean, team's looking all right. I think like the parts that obviously worrying is this week, whether it's like Fisher or like Dowling, what happens there. We just have to see what goes on, but. Uh, yeah, I think there's obviously some concern about what happens in my team with those spots. Um, mm, um, and then yeah, forward line Jackson Kerner. I think they're going to be quite lumpy up and down. I think others got like Moore, Myers, whatever it may be, probably all in the same boat to be honest. But I've got the big four here, which I'm really happy with, and then Jackson as the cover, Kerno. With the fixture, should hopefully be okay on the run home. Should have hopefully get a 90 average still from here or out of him. And then yeah, I'm just like kind of fingers crossed that Fisher gets a better role this week and they gets a chance to shine. But we'll see what happens. I feel like every time I wish for one good thing out of Fisher and McKercher, the bad thing happens to the other one. So maybe I should just like talking about them full stop and let it ride. But anyway, that's me for the week. Sorry for it coming a little bit later than normal. Just a quick one with not a heap to discuss. That's the time of year we're at. Down to 1-0, 1-2, 3 trades. Even when there's a fair bit of drama, which we've got this week, we've had injuries, concussions, all that type of stuff. It's like there's not like the advice. I don't think is particularly hard. Like you got lots of trades, use them. If you don't have any trades, you don't have any trades. Nothing for you to do. But I'll keep checking in as we go through these last 4 or 5 weeks. Just to keep you updated on the progress. Hope you're going well, as always, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.